People are actually watching 2, 3, 4, 5-minute videos on social. It has come back around. If you're planning on doing storytelling in the upper funnel, do not shy away from long form.
I'm so glad you brought that up, because there's that piece of research out there that says human beings have a shorter attention span than a goldfish, which is something like ballpark 6, 7, 8 seconds. But have you ever binge watched on Netflix? Watch a show for 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 10 hours almost straight or over the weekend? If we've got such short attention spans, how come people are binge watching? And the answer to what you're alluding to is just quality of content. Put out great content, people will engage.
And look, obviously, you have to have the right hook at the beginning of your content to bring somebody in. Incredibly important. Otherwise, this thing right here is more powerful than anything else. And I can just skip right over ads so quickly. But you get the right hook and the right intro, you will keep somebody for a long time on your content.
3, 2, 1, go!
All right, man. Well, I finally figured out why you wanted to do this podcast with me, which is, as you know, better than anyone, I have absolutely no discernible skills. I can't write copy. I can't design. I can't shoot or edit video. I've got the attention span of a fruit fly on cheap cocaine, so I can't do analytics. But the one thing that I do have is a motor that just won't quit, which sounds kind of cool, unless, of course, you're the business partner of a guy with no discernible skills and a motor that just won't quit. And when we started this thing, like 25 years ago, I would drive you crazy. Like, dude, we got to get up at sunrise. We got to have coffee together. And we go from coffee to the office. We'd work all morning. I'd force you to hang out with me at lunch. We'd work all afternoon. You go home in the evening. I would call you. I would call you. I would call you. And I remember at one point, your wife answers the phone at 9. And she's like, dude, you had him at coffee time. You've had him all morning. You've had him at lunch. You've called 3 times already. It's my time. Stop calling. Actually, now that I think about it, you were probably sitting right there handing her the phone.
Of course.
And I never realized that till now. We work with a couple of incredible people. Jake from Thursday Labs produces our podcast, and Nicole from QUESTUS helps manage and produce it also. And the other day they came to us and like, hey, man, we got a great idea. If you guys are going to do this podcast, why don't you guys just talk less? That way, when you're on the podcast, it feels nice and fresh. And it hit me like a beam of light. I'm like, this fucking guy has been plotting for 25 years before even the invention of podcasts to finally have some vehicle and some excuse to talk to me less often. So, well played, my brother.
Thank you. Thank you. You've caught on. I have to figure out new tricks to get you off the phone.
Just keep the podcast flowing. Let's dive in, man. So I've had an interesting experience recently, a confluence of 2 events that was helpful for someone who works in marketing, which is one, I got surgery on my shoulder and I did it at Hospital for Special Surgery, which is on the Upper West Side, which happens to be where every car dealership in Manhattan is. At the same time, I'm in the market for a new car. I've had mine for like 8 years, 150,000 miles. It's starting to break down a little bit, so I'm checking it out. And I use this as an opportunity, not just to shop for a new car, but to actually just educate myself, right? Like, and I think you've kind of taught me this. Like, if you don't love checking out brands and their presence and how they're telling their story and what their retail experience is, you're probably not in the right industry. And I just want to go up and down. So you can go Japanese, German, American. You could go mainstream like Volkswagen. Then you could go upscale like Audi. You can go mainstream like Toyota. You can go upscale like Lexus. They're all right there. So I just spent countless hours over the past couple weeks checking out their websites, checking out the dealerships, because here's an indisputable truth about automotive. It's such an amazing category. It's so fascinating because the truth is, like, other than a Subaru Outback, you don't need anything more than that. Like, it's safe, it's affordable, it's reliable, but it's a multi-billion-dollar industry because it's a story that we surround ourselves with.
I mean, we dress ourselves, who we are, with brands, and they hang off us like a badge of not honor, but like, this is who either I am or who I want to be. And it goes for, obviously, the fashion industry definitely does this. But I think it goes for so many other industries. Take us, like we suck at golf, right? But man, do I love to play, right? All for that one shot. When we go buy clubs, you don't think we're picking clubs half maybe because how we hit them, but also the other half is kind of like who plays with them, right? How is that any different than seeing, Kendall Jenner in a fashion ad where you're like, I want to be her. Christ, I want to be Rory McIlroy. It's no different. And so, I think what the fashion industry has done so well is they've kind of elevated this idea of storytelling in the sense of, I'm going to show you who perhaps you want to be or become. In fact, I'm going to start to dictate what that looks like. And you can either buy in or not buy in. What an incredibly powerful move to create that vision for who you become by buying my product. Like, I think that really speaks to the aspirational, emotional connection that you see so often in the top of the funnel. I feel like a lot of brands just don't do it well. They just feel like, well, if I just show lifestyle footage, it's great. But if you deconstruct a fashion ad, we're talking about the location, the furniture, the setting, the pose, who else is in the picture. It paints an incredibly extraordinary, powerful picture. The fashion industry, they didn't have the money at the time to really go on TV. So they really had to do it with print. And they perfected basically creating a story with a single image. We now have the power of video. And I wish that brands would say, okay, let's take the time and really talk about what kind of picture do we want to paint and what vision do we want to create so people can go and buy into it. Incredibly powerful. I am a sucker for a great brand. I'm a sucker when they show up on my feed and Instagram, take my money. Lord knows my wife will tell you the boxes outside demonstrate that. But yeah, so incredibly powerful. And I feel like if brands kind of looked at it that way, they'd be much better off.
Yeah, it's so true because it's not just the fashion industry, to your point. It's all the different categories that surround you. It's your car, your sports equipment, furniture in your house, your appliances, your fly fishing gear. Like every single thing is a little bit of a story about yourself. And to your point, it sounds superficial and almost artificial, but it's not. That's the fact of the industry that we work in. And that's the importance of being able to tell a cohesive and powerful and unique story. And by the way, back to your fashion point, like I don't understand any of those stories. Like you pick up a fashion magazine and flip through the first 30 pages, they make no sense to me. And the other people who are making those stories are like, hey, Rosenblum, we don't give a shit. You're not part of our target audience. But they tell such powerful stories that they're selling largely commoditized products with massive margins, massive market share, billions in revenue, just because they can tell these powerful stories.
Take Yeti, for example. It's hard to picture a world where Yeti wasn't in it, but just step back for a moment. It's a cooler, right? You just grab the styrofoam cooler, right? Because that's all you need. Now I've been sold a $500 cooler that's in my garage that I've used once because Yeti painted a picture for me that I bought into. Like that's the power. From a $40 styrofoam cooler to a $500, I don't know, case a bear wants to get in it. Like it won't let it. Like that's going to happen. But I'm prepared if that does. Just to be clear.
Totally. And like the fashion industry, they went all in on those stories in the most berserk, bananas, unique way. And so many brands are trying to copy it right now. But the original investors, I remember the Wall Street Journal article, they put in $67 million. The company is now valued at like $8 billion. That's the crazy return on investment for a product that really wasn't needed. Your Coleman coolers were great. Your Igloo coolers were great. Is it a better product? Yes. But I think you and I would argue that it's the story that makes the brand so great, which sits on top of a great product. There's nothing wrong with the product. It's a great product, which enables us to tell those stories, but it is the story that built the brand and not just one story, right? So many people are like, oh, we want to be like Yeti. Let's make an 8-minute video. Let's make a 2-minute video. Let's bring in an influencer. No, they went all in. A series of dozens and dozens and dozens of videos. Every single one of them I've watched, every single one of them that I've shared, people have come back to me and be like, that story is incredible. And it just goes viral without the paid media because they invested so heavily in that storytelling.
Totally. And for everybody out there who's like, well, 8 minutes, nobody watches 8 minutes anymore. Stats are showing a different thing right now. Like, people are actually watching 2, 3, 4, 5 minute videos on social, right? It has come back around. So, if you're planning on doing storytelling in the upper funnel, do not shy away from long form. It's on its way back.
Oh my God. I'm so glad you brought that up, because there's that piece of research out there that says human beings have a shorter attention span than a goldfish, which is something like ballpark 6, 7, 8 seconds. And I went down, I did a deep dive. I'm like, is this real? And I'm pretty sure it's a piece of research funded by Microsoft. So yeah, in many ways, our attention span is shorter than ever before. Sometimes we give up before 6 seconds hits. On social, we often see people giving up at approximately 47 seconds. But have you ever binge watched on Netflix? Has everybody binge watched on Netflix? Isn't that not literally one of the great modern experiences, to just watch a show for 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 10 hours almost straight or over the weekend? If we've got such short attention spans, how come people are binge watching? And the answer to what you're alluding to is just quality of content. Put out great content, people will engage.
That's it. If your content is relevant to me and speaks to me, I'll watch it. I don't care how long it is. And look, obviously, you have to have the right hook at the beginning of your content to bring somebody in, right? Incredibly important. Otherwise, this thing right here is more powerful than anything else. And I can just skip right over ads so quickly. But you get the right hook and the right intro, you will keep somebody for a long time on your content.
And people listening at home and not watching the video, this thing right here is Jordan's thumb. Just flick, flick, flick. You just invested $50 million in an ad campaign, flick, and it's absolutely gone. Such a huge point. Let's get back to the matter at hand, right? So as I'm going and checking out all these different car companies, something came to mind that I had never thought of before, and I can't get it out of my head, which is this. Great brands ignite the imagination. The single most powerful and complicated entity in the known universe is the human brain. And great brands don't always have to tell a complete story. Great brands need to help the audience create a story. And sometimes it's just about triggering or igniting something in the imagination. It could be something as simple as an SUV pulling a boat, a happy family in the back seat, someone throwing a line out on the river, a mom with her baby, an athlete sweating profusely, then crossing the finish line, right? All of these singular images or short videos inspire the audience. The human brain can take that little bit of spark and create its own story, can fill in the gaps and turn that story into something that is so uniquely compelling for oneself. There's no other force that's as powerful as the human brain. So great brands just need to ignite that imagination. And a lot of it actually means let's just limit the amount of information that we're giving, right? So here's an example. I fell in love with a company called Rivian, right? Tesla's stolen everybody's imagination. Elon has kind of shit on that brand recently. So I'm checking out Rivian. And where I first noticed them, I'm in Boston, probably day drinking. I can't even remember. And it turns out Head of the Charles is there. So I'm like, let me go to the Head of the Charles, the crewing race. Never been. And we go down there. And what was interesting is Rivian was showing one of their trucks there. But it was so well targeted, right? Demographically, these are pretty upscale people. They can afford it. That's easy. Psychographically, really smart because these are outdoorsy people, right? And the core positioning for Rivian is all about the adventure. I'm not even sure what term they use, but they center around adventure. And all of these people are clearly like somewhat adventurous. They're out on the river. People are watching people row and crew and getting their heart racing up. But most importantly, it's about the mindset at that moment. Because when you're out there watching other people do cool, adventurous shit, you're sitting there thinking, man, I got to do something adventurous myself. That race is actually pretty boring. Next thing you know, you turn around, there's a Rivian, and it's got a paddleboard on top. It's got these jacked up tires. There's no brochure. There's no QR code. There's no salesperson. There's just a couple of these things decked out for adventure. And I'm like, holy shit, ignite the imagination. At that point, I'm like, oh my God, if I get a Rivian, I'm just as adventurous, right? Like people don't really think that way, but as a marketer, I'm getting in touch with the fact of what these guys are doing. So then you go up on the website and it's the same thing, just like nailing this positioning, adventure, adventure, adventure. They're consistently reinforcing this concept of adventure. And I get this crazy thought that like, I don't even know if brands need to nail it and get it correct. I think it's more important to be bold and be consistent than get it correct. Like that company was started as making sports cars. And then he realized that there was a bigger market in SUVs and trucks and adventure. And they just made a pivot, right? But to my point about igniting the imagination, it's not just about the storytelling that they have, but it's about limiting the amount of information they have. Because I was like, let me go look at one of their direct competitors. I went for a GMC electric truck. GMC makes great products. You can do whatever you want with that thing. You are not going to run it into the ground. And they had some cool images, and I couldn't quite figure it out. I'm like, why is this Rivian car look so cool and so exciting? And why is a more established company not look that cool when you look at, for example, their website? And I started looking at it as an engineering problem. And what I realized is GMC just has so many words, so many features, so many specifications. So we went and counted them. If you look at the top half of the page, there's ballpark 600 plus words on the GMC product page. And then you go to Rivian, the same page, there's less than 200. There's 3 times as many words for GMC. And words aren't bad, right? Functional information is absolutely critical, but they're not sequencing it correctly. Rivian is nailing their core positioning. It's all about adventure. And they're stripping out the extraneous words and they're igniting the audience's imagination. GMC, equally if not better truck, just is trying to explain everything all at once, is taking all the sex appeal out and igniting absolutely nothing.
It's crazy. You know what I think that is? It comes back to like, obviously GMC, Ford, Chevy. These are huge companies that are no longer really founder-led. They're just not. When that happens, I think the attention to detail, the vision, the passion, the North Star and the way forward kind of gets lost. And Rivian still has a founder, and he's young, and he's great, and he's vibrant, and he's out there. And I don't know if people realize this, but Rivian's a DTC company, right? I mean, that's basically what they are. You don't think of them that way. But I think that he basically picked up a lot of the tools that other upstart new companies are using, which is we're going to grab the founder and we're going to bring him right into the ads. Like you can go on Rivian's website and he's all over that website. He's all over social, to get that intimate look as to where this company's going, the vision that he's painting, right? That is something like we talk about like brands, you buy into a brand, like as something that you might wear, like you're buying into his vision, right? And he's got a great one. His care and detail and passion about every aspect of the car comes through. You don't have to have a founder at your company to be able to do this, but I think there is this idea of a singular focus, right? Simon Sinek always says it, like start with why. A singular focus, a vision, a North Star. And don't lose sight of that in every brief you create, piece of content you create. It all aligns you back to where you need to be because the consumer, to your point, can't digest that many messages, right? There's only so many they can take in. And so if you can pare that down, and the way to do that is stay focused on your North Star, your positioning, your why, then you're going to have a much better chance of breaking through.
It's so true because if you're talking about our core target audience, which is very often Fortune 100 giant companies, they're no longer founder-led, you can still emulate what these founder-led organizations are doing, right? It's about systems, processes, and most importantly, conviction, staying at that North Star that you mentioned. And, one of the things I talk about is love it or leave it. Just because something is really cool and compelling doesn't mean it's worth telling, or at least save it for later in the sequential storytelling. Love it or leave it. If you don't absolutely love it, it's not reinforcing that core positioning. It's not reinforcing that value prop. It's not reinforcing that North Star. Take it out. That's what these brands do so well. If you look all across the D2C brands, is that they strip out that extraneous information and they stay on message.
So true.
Now, here's the other thing I noticed. And by the way, I love, as I mentioned, the automobile industry, but it kind of hit me. I was like, man, if there was a way to invest in an ETF or a mutual fund or some other product that's all about alternative vehicles, I would strongly think about it. Because as I mentioned earlier, like I went into all these different dealerships, all the established companies. What an incredible hot mess. Like an incredible, absolutely incredible hot mess. When you're up on 11th Street in Manhattan, that's where they all are, right? So as I mentioned, I went main scale, upscale, probably walked into 8 different ones. Maybe the second or third one I walked into is pretty upscale, luxury brand, right? Guy comes up, dealer, salesperson, classic salesperson, let's go check some stuff out. He does a pretty good job, gets me interested, gets me talking. I'm like, hey man, let's check out the beige interior. Sure, Jeff. Oh no, we don't have one of those. Let's go in the back. Okay, sure, let's go in the back. Next thing you know, we're back in the warehouse. Within 30 seconds, like, dude, watch out. Like a car's coming at me because I'm in the bowels of their company where they're actually working. No big deal. I'm not that big an asshole, right? Then we go up to the second floor because we can't find the right car. Same thing's going on. I'm in the bowels. Next thing you know, I'm up on the roof. We're in the rain and we're walking around in the rain just trying to find this car, which we never found. And I'm not that big of a hothouse flower. I've got no problem being in the rain. But that's not the vision. That's not the story. That's not the North Star. This is an expensive luxury car that I'm not going to buy and I probably can't afford. But the totality of the experience was egregiously awful, right? And it happened time and time again. Like I went into another one, Japanese automaker. And you walk in on the first floor where they greet you, but the showroom's on like the second or third floor. Yeah, you go to the elevator. I'm in the elevator. Can't make this up. 2 guys are in there. I'm in my sling for my shoulder surgery, so maybe they didn't realize I was a prospective customer. And it's like 4:15, and he just turns to the other dude, and he's like, man, I can't wait to get out of here. I'm done today, right? 6 minutes later, I'm checking out a car. He realizes I'm a prospect, and he's like, hey, can I help you out? Like, no, dude, you already hit me with a bunch of negativity before. Another one I go to, someone's showing me the car, and there's just double negatives. She's like, you don't need no wires in this car. I'm like, again, I know I sound like an asshole, but like all of that is off brand, like how you treat the customers, the grammar that you use. And then you come over to Rivian. And I think most of the new car companies are really effectively doing this. Tesla's a hot mess right now, but Tesla does this really effectively right now also, which is they've changed the environment. So when I went down to Rivian, the person behind the counter, he's literally dressed like he's fresh off the slopes in like Park City. Like he's got a beanie on. He's like totally casual. These cars are just as expensive as the luxury ones, but he's on brand. Hey man, how you doing? Check it out. When we want to check out the colors, right, at the first company that I mentioned, we're out in the bowels of their company, the bowels of their dealership, awful. He's like, hey man, you want to check it out? And then you turn and there's like shelves that look as beautiful as anybody's shelves. Like you're in somebody's living room checking out all the colors, right? And then I'm like, hey dude, I got to go. I got to get to my next doctor's appointment. Next thing you know, he's like up on the Rivian map in the car. He's like, where is it? We're in the dealership. We're not even outside in the car. And I'm like, it's over here. He's like, it's 25 minutes away. Let's hop out of the car and I'll go drive you up there. I don't know. Maybe every dealership would do that. But when you have a brand story that has a North Star, per your point, and then every single touch point is nailing that North Star, and you're surrounded by adventure, it carries some psychological momentum. So was there some friction in the experience? Yeah, probably, but I didn't notice it. Everything just started taking that friction and turning it into momentum to the point where we're hanging out and he was driving me over to the doctor's office. It's a crazy experience. That's the power of great storytelling, not just, to your point, like Yeti storytelling in video, but carrying that entire story through every single touch point.
Totally agree. By the way, are you going to buy a Rivian? Is that where you're leaning now?
That's a great question. I have absolutely no idea.
You have no idea.
You know, there's this scene. You can sound like a real asshole trying to compare yourself to Steve Jobs, but there's that part in the Steve Jobs book where he's such a product guy that he can't buy new appliances. Do you remember this? And he's just sitting on his kitchen floor because he can't figure out which appliances to buy. It's too much. And I'm such a marketing guy. I love this so much that I've been lost in all these stories, and I am absolutely paralyzed right now. As much as I love that brand and I love the GMC brand, and I found a bunch that I love, I'm totally paralyzed. I may not just get another car. I'm lost.
Right. Keep driving that 15-year-old Volvo.
So here's the crazy thing about less words in removing friction, right? If you look at Tesla, right, and clearly Elon has screwed up his brand right now. The stock price is down 30%. People are rebelling against him. People hate him. There are still tons of lessons to be learned, right? Up until January 1st, if you invested $10,000 in Tesla, it would have been worth $247,000. That's 10x what that same investment would have done in the S&P 500. They're the number one selling SUV neck and neck with Toyota every single year, selling approximately 400,000 units. Like, I don't think we should throw out the baby with the bathwater. It's worth it to look at what they're doing with their brand. Here's the crazy thing. As marketers, I think we've looked at companies and products coming out of China for a long time. I mean, like, look, they're better at manufacturing. They're better at technology. They're better than America at a lot of things. But you know what we have? We have marketing and sales. And if they ever figure out the marketing and sales, we are screwed. Go up on BYD. I don't even know how you pronounce it. This company is going through the roof. Chinese EVs. What they did is not only did they reverse engineer, probably from Tesla, how to produce these cars, but they're waking up to reverse engineer the marketing. If you go up on the homepage of BYD, it looks almost exactly like Tesla. They've done a good enough job of separating the brand so it doesn't look exactly the same, but you can count the number of links, you can count the number of emotional images, you can count the number of functional images. Marketing in a lot of ways is an engineering challenge. And a lot of these things, like, you can't replace the incredible, brilliant, creative thinkers, but a lot of the strategy is really an engineering problem. And I think it's being proven right now by brands like BYD. So speaking of friction, you sent me a headline the other day that I thought was absolutely bananas. Is it Jeep is running pop-up ads in their cars right now? Is that what it was?
Yeah, apparently so. And the reason they're running pop-up ads is because they think it's another revenue source. You know, they're like, oh, well, you know, Amazon, you go to Amazon.com, they're selling, I guess, you know, at shopper marketing, they're selling their inventory. Well, we have all these people in the seats of Jeeps. We're going to sell pop-ups on their interactive screen.
Dude, how does that even work? Like, you're driving and a window pops up?
If I'm at Amazon, I'm shopping. If I'm in my car, like, this is the one moment where I'm not have my phone in front of me. Like, I get to just tune out and I'm getting pop-ups. Like, who thought this was a good idea?
Dude, we should literally try to answer that. Like, how could anybody sit there in the conference room and pitch that idea? And then how do a bunch of people sit around the table and be like, oh yeah, man, we should definitely run with that one. By the way, have they not looked at traditional companies like Time Inc. trying to make a living off of ads and pop-ups? That's a hard way to make a living if you're not Google or Meta.
Oh, dude, the damage versus the potential revenue increase, like, it's a asymmetric bet. Like, it's horrible. It doesn't make any sense. I don't know. This, you know what it reminds me of? Being in a taxi in New York. It's been a while, but the video starts playing, like, and I have to shut it off, right? And it, like, that's exactly what I feel like it probably is driving a Jeep.
Great analogy, right? Because what is the shittiest brand in the known universe? It's the New York City taxi. Like, nobody's stoked about that experience. You do it because you have to, because you can't get an Uber quick enough, right? But you can't turn off that video player quick enough in a taxi. And now you're investing in that? And look, what is the lesson there? I mean, the obvious lesson, don't be a schmuck and put pop-ups into your product. But I think the other bigger lesson is great brands are built by servicing the audience, by bringing more value to them than you're asking. That brand is clearly, at least in this incident, great brand, by the way. I think everybody loves Jeep. You and I love Jeep, but this is a misstep because at this moment, they're saying our needs are more important than your needs. Our ability to crank out a couple extra pennies each day out of you by selling these pop-ups is more important than your comfort, more important than your safety.
It's crazy. And I would imagine they're going to acquire enough customer data through this to realize that this is a really bad idea, right?
Really bad.
At least I hope so. Like any other ad, network is able to do. Close out, don't do it again, see less often, whatever is being served up, right? I mean, there's so much data available. They could have done pre-market testing, post-market testing, but if any company should be harnessing data to that extent. And you think about car companies, just to shift and use data as an example, there's not enough, I think, advertising departments using data to really understand and realize that a single product can appeal to two different consumers for vastly different reasons, right? And I think people lose sight of that. What digital offers is the ability to go to market with two somewhat different messages and speak to those two audiences. And why more brands don't do this, I just don't get. And the examples are endless. Like the automotive industry, this happens in my house. EVs. My wife was shopping for an EV last year. I'm like, Chris, like this one has the best range. This one has remote, like you could turn on the air conditioning, like when you're in the mall, if it's hot out, you can turn on the heat, all this sort of stuff. She's like, that's not what I care about. I care about like the environmental impact and how I'm going to be able to reduce my carbon footprint in the world. Can you speak to that? And I was like, holy cow, like you care about something completely different about an EV than I do. And with data, I can understand that, right? I know exactly what you care about and what I care about. And why are we not creating messages that are slightly nuanced at that point, right? Each have their own, let's call it positioning, core messaging, whatever you want, but like staying true to that as she works her way down the journey and I work my way down the journey. And I think that's where, there's just not enough data at the briefing moment, right? Where you've got your marketing teams, your agencies, whatever, to really say, should we be going out with a single message? Like, just think about that. 99% of the time, we are briefed in from a client with a single message. But there are instances where clients are like, we have enough data that says we have two distinctly different messages we need to put in market, and we can set up two different media plans, and we can target two different people. The banks have it too. We have a couple bank clients, and they have figured out that the millennial audience cares more about values of the bank, right? Behaviors, the way their customer service is it US based? Is it overseas? All this sort of stuff. And then you might have an audience that's slightly older, more sophisticated, that cares purely about a lot of the functional benefits. Two distinct campaigns. They have same bank, but they appeal to two different sets of groups differently. Why are we not taking this into account? It's almost like we need to kind of stop and reframe the creative brief from the very get-go and say, are there possible nuances here? Not even nuances, huge core messaging shifts that we should be propelling down. And oh, by the way, media team, we need two different media plans because with digital, we're all served different experiences. All of our funnels, our silos look different. My feed looks different than yours, right? Now that TV is going away and we're all not sitting around the TV, right? Our experiences are different. Put that to good use.
Yeah, like our feeds look different and they may have different products. But the next level is different products, but also different messaging. And by the way, all that data can be optimized, machine learning, real time, on the fly without even human intervention. Meaning in your example, maybe it is an older person and they care about the values more than the function. Fine. Well, that person will automatically be pivoted into its own custom audience. And that person will go down a sequential story based upon all the different pieces of content that meet that person's exact needs, psychographic, mindset, emotional, at the exact right moment, carrying them all the way, awareness, interest, conversion, all the way to brand champion. And I think to your point, like One of the problems with data is there's just too much of it. Everyone's like, oh, we need data, more data. We don't need more fucking data. Like some crazy geniuses, must have been MIT. I don't know how you could even do this, right? They figured out that there's more data surrounding us on this planet right now than there are grains of sand on the planet. So take a handful of sand, try to count the amount of sand. Virtually impossible. Now extrapolate that around the entire planet. Some genius was able to figure out how many grains of sand there are. And it turns out there's actually more data than grains of sand. So what do we actually need? We need more insight. We need more action. And to your point on Jeep, none of that should have happened, right? You shouldn't be making those huge mistakes. I think in Silicon Valley, and it was really big for a while, it was always like failure, embrace failure, fail fast. They had all these conferences like FailCon. F that, man. That is a terrible idea. There is more than enough data to avoid failures. Like not everything is going to be perfect. Not everything is going to be correct. You should have processes and systems and we should course correct. But like there should not be dramatic failures. If you embrace the data, you immerse yourself in the brand, those types of things like Jeep just should not happen, period, full stop.
Well said.
So pivoting ever so slightly in price point away from Jeep, there's Ferrari. They've been in the news with the Wall Street Journal. Tell us about this article and what you think about it, Jordan.
Yeah, I think an article came out basically talking about how well Ferrari is doing financially. They have a kind of a new strategy where they're releasing a lot of limited edition cars. And I think that's great. And it builds the mystique. It creates emotional and inspirational advertising. And that's dynamite. And it's been highly successful. I think like their top car is now selling for $3.8 million, this F80. But on the flip side, if you go into, Reddit or Instagram or YouTube, Ferrari owners are pissed because what they've done is they used to cap the production on all their cars. Now there's no cap, right? Or if there is a cap, then they increase it. So, oh no, only 3,000 cars will be made. And then 2 years later, it's like, we're going to make another 2. And so that's one. So cars are not appreciating as fast as they once were. In fact, they're depreciating, except for these special, series. The issue is nobody can get a special series. So there's a guy in New York who just got an allocation for this $3.8 million Ferrari. He had to buy 42 other Ferraris in order to get it.
Dude,
you can't drive 42 Ferraris, but he's like, I don't care, right? I'm going to go and do it. But now you're getting a lot of people saying, this is ridiculous, right? So, the mystique is gone. Their entry-level models. I just went on Auto Trader this morning to prepare for this podcast, and there were 171 of their entry-level models available for sale right now. That's unheard of. And most of them are $100,000 to $150,000 below what the sticker price is. So, yes, I think they're going to have a short-term gain, but I think there's going to be long-term pain when it comes to this. And you have to, it reminds me of what Nike has gone through over the last 2 years. Short-term gain, we're going to make more money, more profitable, but at the end of the day, your customers are pissed.
Yeah, we see brands do it all the time. It's amazing to say, but there's an absolute through line from the Jeep and the pop-ups and what Ferrari's doing. And what they're doing, both are seeking out the short-term gain, putting their needs before their audience's needs, ultimately, in a lot of ways, disrespecting their audience, breaking the trust, generating revenue, increasing profits, but that'll come crashing back to earth.
Yep.
Look, man, I think that's probably enough for today. I'm going to go out and continue to bombard myself with new automotive marketing and absolutely not make any purchases. So thanks for joining me. That's it for today. Thanks, everyone, for joining Brand Champions.
Brand Champions is a QUESTUS production. If you enjoy the show, please subscribe and review wherever you tune in. You can submit mailbag questions to brandchampions@questus.com